I was at the DMV of all places, half listening to my number being called and half scrolling through my phone when I got the text that split my day in two. It was from Rachel. Just a line. Not even a question. What would you think about going to a swingers club? No, hey, or babe, or LOL, just thinking. Just that. I stared at it too long enough that the lady behind the glass had to call my number twice. I didn't reply. I didn't even move. My hand tightened around my phone and I felt this weird burning sensation at the back of my neck, like someone had just whispered something humiliating into my ear in a crowded room. That evening I didn't bring it up right away. I made dinner, grilled chicken, roasted sweet potatoes, some salad. I didn't know what else to do. She came home smelling like hotel shampoo. Her hair was slightly wet like she'd showered at the gym, but she hadn't taken her gym bag. She kissed me on the cheek, gave me a half hug, and said, smells good in here. I asked, what was that text about? She didn't even pretend to be confused. Oh, that? Yeah. Just curious. She plopped down at the table, crossed her legs under her, and started scrolling through her phone again. Some friends were talking about it. I said, what kind of friends talk about that? She looked up. What do you mean, what kind? Normal ones. No one I know brings that up over drinks. Maybe you need new friends then. She smiled, sipped her wine, like she just won a point in a debate. I sat across from her, watching her chew, watching the way her mouth curled at the edges when she wasn't trying to hide her amusement. There was a new smugness to her. Subtle but not accidental. I waited until after dinner. I cleaned up the dishes, wiped the counters. She disappeared into the bedroom for a while, and when I walked in, she was lying on the bed in a robe, painting her toenails red. I stood in the doorway. Are you serious about it? She didn't look up. What? The swingers thing. She capped the polished bottle, finally glanced up. I think it could be good for us. Shake things up. You've gotten predictable. That landed like a slap. Not dramatic, not loud. Just accurate. Sharp. I'm predictable? I said. She shrugged. We've been doing the same things for years. You come home, you work, you ask if I want Thai or Mexican on Fridays. It's fine. But I'm bored. You're bored so you want to watch me with someone else? Or have me watch you? She laughed a dry, cruel little noise and said, please, like you'd even know what to do with someone new. And that right there was the moment I knew something was already happening. Not that she wanted to explore something new. That would have involved me. But this was her laying down breadcrumbs for an exit. A script rehearsed and delivered with just enough contempt to seem spontaneous. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just looked at her and said, are you sleeping with someone already? She blinked. Not fast. Not surprised. Just calculated. No, she said. But there was a pause. A half-second delay where the lie formed. It was too practiced. Try again, I said. And she stood up, walked past me into the bathroom, closed the door, locked it. I heard the click and I realized I was locked out of more than just the room. I was locked out of the truth of whatever version of Rachel had existed before this. She had shifted into something else and now I was talking to a stranger who wore my wife's face. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes. Not knocking. Not pacing. Just standing. The silence between us thickened into something heavy and sharp, and in that quiet, a part of me started to split away, the part that still thought this could be fixed. I knew better. Something was already broken, and the pieces weren't mine to pick up anymore. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She came out of the bathroom in one of my old college hoodies, hair towel wrapped, humming to herself. She even asked if I wanted pancakes, like we were some sitcom couple who had just argued about who left the lights on. I didn't answer. I just watched her. Noticed how her phone never left her side anymore. How she'd angle the screen away even when setting it down face down. These weren't signs I'd missed before, they were signs I'd ignored. There's a difference. I didn't want to know before. Now I couldn't look away. While she was in the kitchen, I opened her laptop. She rarely used it these days, mostly relying on her phone, but I figured it was worth a shot. Nothing incriminating on the desktop. No sketchy folders. But when I opened her browser and checked her history, there it was. Like a neon billboard screaming the truth. How to discreetly attend a swingers club without your partner. Is it cheating if you're in love with someone else? Private messaging rules, the Silk Room forum. I had no idea what the Silk Room was, but the forum had dozens of threads. Usernames, coded language, meeting spots, stories. She wasn't just browsing. She was part of it. She had an account. Orchid_Violet7. She had posted, commented, laughed. My ears started ringing. Like a plane cabin depressurizing. I clicked on her profile. Private. I clicked again, deeper into a thread she'd commented on. Something about first-timers who want to come without a jealous husband. There were replies. Replies she responded to. Conversations that trailed off around 2 weeks ago, right when she started getting more overtime at work. I slammed the laptop shut. She called out from the kitchen, everything okay in there? I didn't answer. I went to the bathroom, stared at myself in the mirror, and tried to figure out what face to wear. The calm husband? The betrayed one? The man who already knew he was being lied to, or the man pretending he didn't? She was setting down pancakes when I came out. You disappeared on me, she said, laughing a little. I sat down, stared at her. My voice was flat, steady. How long have you been messaging people behind my back? She paused, blinked like I'd thrown cold water in her face. Then a smirk. Wow, that's the energy we're having at breakfast? No games, Rachel. Answer. She leaned back in the chair, fork in hand, swinging it lazily like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. You really think I'm going to have this conversation with you while you're making that face? What face? That her puppy with a badge look? Like you're a cop trying not to cry. It was theatrical. Cruel. Designed to humiliate me just enough to throw me off balance. But I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I asked again, slower. How long? She chewed a piece of pancake like it was a power play. It's not what you think. Then explain it. I was curious. I talked to people. I never met anyone. I was looking. For what? Her eyes narrowed. For something that made me feel like I wasn't dead inside. And that cracked something in me I hadn't even realized was under pressure. The insult wasn't the worst part, it was that she meant it. That she'd probably rehearsed it or maybe said it before to someone else. Someone who listened, who agreed with her. I stood up, quietly, left my plate untouched. My appetite was gone. As I walked toward the door, she called after me, you never ask me what I need, Josh. You just want me to be the version of me that makes you comfortable. I didn't turn around. I said just one thing before I left the house. And you want me to become the man who tolerates being betrayed. She didn't respond. The door closed behind me with a finality I wasn't ready for, but welcomed anyway. I drove aimlessly for about an hour. No music. No calls. Just the dull hum of the engine and the kind of thoughts that never stop once they start chewing on you. There's something about betrayal that doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in, like smoke under a door. First you notice the smell, then the sting in your eyes. Then suddenly you can't breathe. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot, just sat there watching people go in and out, holding on to their little pieces of normal. Families bickering over cereal. Teenagers dragging their feet behind annoyed parents. A couple in their 50s laughing like they were still dating. And I thought, how many of these people are walking around with knives in their backs, pretending they're fine? Eventually I called Mark, my oldest friend. We hadn't talked in a while, but he picked up like I just called him yesterday. You sound like you haven't slept in a week, he said. I think Rachel's cheating on me, I said. No warm-up. Just tore the bandage off. A pause. Then, you think. She's talking to people on some underground site. Been lying. Hiding stuff. She threw the swingers club idea at me like it was an appetizer. Mark let out a low whistle. Man, that's wow. Yeah. You confront her? She called me a predictable puppy cop and said she felt dead inside. Another pause. You want me to come over? I didn't answer. I didn't know what I wanted. What do you even ask for in a situation like that? A gun? A shovel? A new identity? He finally said, listen. Come stay at my place tonight. Clear your head. If she's trying to flip this on you, don't give her the satisfaction of seeing you unravel. Play it cool. Gather your evidence. I'm not trying to build a case, Mark. You're damn right you are. You just don't want to admit you're already in court. I hung up without answering. Later that night, I came home. Her car was in the driveway. The lights were on. Inside, music played, some soft ambient jazz that she usually only put on when she was trying to seem sophisticated or create a mood. She was on the couch in a satin robe, sipping wine, legs crossed like a magazine ad for fake peace. You just left this morning, she said. No word. That's not like you. I ignored that. You have anything else to tell me? She tilted her head. About what? I took out my phone, opened the browser, showed her the forum. Her smile cracked. Just slightly. You went through my laptop, she said, voice flat. That's your concern? Not that I found your little secret life. It's not a secret, she said, sitting up straighter. It's private. There's a difference. You're married. Privacy isn't supposed to look like deception. You're not exactly transparent either, she snapped. With what? She waved her hand. You keep things bottled up. You don't talk about your job. You act like everything's fine when it's not. That's not cheating, Rachel. That's being emotionally constipated. She laughed. Actually laughed. God, do you hear yourself? You sound like a bad therapist. This is why I needed something else. That sentence. This is why I needed something else. Like I was a failed brand she'd returned to the store. So who is it? I asked. Give me the name. She stood up. Walked over to the window. Didn't answer. Tell me who you've been messaging. Still nothing. I swear to God, Rachel, it's not one person, she said finally, turning around. It's been a few conversations. A few flirts. But there's one. He lives a couple towns over. We haven't done anything. But yes, I've thought about it. More than thought. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Like she was confessing to stealing a pack of gum, not torching a marriage. You planning on meeting him? I was waiting to see if you'd care. That broke something in me. Not anger. Not even heartbreak. Just this cold, clean severing of the thread that had held my belief in us together. She added, I don't feel guilty. That probably says something awful about me. But I don't. I don't feel anything when I lie to you anymore. And that was when I realized she wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was daring me to react, pushing me to explode so she could say I was the crazy one, the emotional one, the weak one. But I didn't give her the show. I just said, okay. Then we're done. No, we're not, she said too quickly. Yes, Rachel. We are. She didn't take it well. Not in the way I expected. There were no tears, no begging, no dramatic apologies. Just ice. Pure, deliberate coldness, like I'd flicked a switch inside her that powered down every trace of vulnerability she'd ever shown me. Don't be dramatic, she said, folding her arms, the robe cinched a little tighter like she was preparing for battle. You're not the first husband to hear something he didn't like. I blinked, stunned by the casual cruelty of it. You're comparing this to what? A bad dinner choice? She shrugged. You're overreacting. Nothing even happened. You emotionally auditioned replacements while I was in the next room doing your taxes. That finally landed. Her jaw tensed. I didn't cheat. Because you didn't touch him? Exactly. Let me ask you this, I said, stepping closer. If you'd gone through my laptop and found me on a site where I was planning first encounters with strangers, telling them my wife didn't excite me anymore, you'd be fine? She didn't answer. Would you? Still nothing. Didn't think so. She sat down, crossed her legs, and grabbed her wine again. You're so black and white about things. It's exhausting. That did it. That snapped something loose. I couldn't hold the line anymore. No, Rachel. What's exhausting is thinking I'm building a life with someone who keeps opening side doors to escape routes. You don't want to be here? Fine. But don't rewrite history to make me the villain because I noticed the smoke coming from under the damn door. Her eyes narrowed. You think I'm the villain? You lied. You planned. You treated me like a placeholder while you flirted your way through your boredom. Her voice dropped low, almost venomous. You stopped being interesting. You stopped trying. You let everything get predictable. What was I supposed to do? Knit and wait for you to magically change. You were supposed to talk to me. Not start shopping around for upgrades like I'm last year's phone. You don't get it, she said, and now her voice cracked. You haven't for years. And that's when it hit me, she wasn't trying to fix this. She was trying to justify it to herself. Every excuse she threw at me was more for her than me. If she could paint me as the problem, then she didn't have to feel bad for what she'd done. Or what she was about to do. I turned and walked to the bedroom. Closed the door. Not slammed. Just closed. She didn't follow. I didn't pack a bag. I just sat on the edge of the bed staring at the carpet, wondering how many quiet moments over the last few months were actually rehearsals for this, how many smiles were faked, how many kisses were ghosted. I must have sat there for an hour. When I finally came out, the living room was dark. She'd gone to bed on the couch. Good. I didn't say anything. Just grabbed my keys, my laptop, and a duffel bag I threw together without looking. As I stepped outside, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to think until that moment. This wasn't a rough patch. This wasn't salvageable. This was done. What we had wasn't cracked. It was hollow. And hollow things don't break. They collapsed. Mark's place was a mess in the way only a single man's apartment can be. Takeout boxes stacked like cardboard Jenga, a couch with more stains than cushions, a television mounted crookedly above a shelf of half-broken remotes. But that night, it was a sanctuary. A place with no lies. He didn't ask questions when I walked in. Just pointed to the fridge and said, beer's cold. Floor's yours. I took the couch. He took the silence. We watched some garbage reality show he probably hated as much as I did, but neither of us changed the channel. You going back? He asked eventually. I don't think there's a back anymore. Mark nodded slowly, sipping his drink. You think she's actually met the guy? I didn't answer right away. I'd been thinking about that for hours. Her face when I asked. That pause. The way she dodged. She says no, I finally muttered. Mark snorted. And you believe her? I didn't. But I hadn't wanted to say it out loud. She's playing a game, I said. She wants me to snap. So she can pin it all on me. That's some next-level mind twist, he said, shaking his head. She told me she doesn't feel guilty, I added. He raised his eyebrows. Cold. Dead cold. We sat for a while. Just breathing, just existing. And that's when I had the idea. You still got that buddy at the phone shop? He looked over. Bryce? Yeah. I need a favor. He didn't ask what kind. Just said, let me make a call. The next morning, I was parked outside my own house, watching. I'd sent her a text, simple, dry. I'll be by later to get a few things. Don't be home. I expected a fight. She didn't even respond. That silence said everything. I wasn't there for closure. I was there for information. I went in. Everything was how I left it. Too clean. Too arranged. The wine glass from our confrontation was gone. New throw pillows on the couch. Like she tried to redecorate the air. I walked straight to the router. Bryce had coached me through it over the phone. Access the admin page, check the connected devices, find the unfamiliar ones. There it was, a phone I didn't recognize. An iPhone, not hers. Logged in 2 nights ago. Around midnight. It hadn't just connected once. It had been on and off our network for weeks. Someone had been here. Not just a maybe. Not just a thought. It was a fact now. A footprint in my house. A ghost in the walls. I checked the bedroom next. Her drawers were messier than usual. A man's t-shirt, not mine, was folded at the bottom of a stack. I pulled it out. Smelled it. Cologne. Sharp, woody, expensive. That was it. I walked back into the living room, sat down, and stared at nothing. The silence of the house now felt different. Not empty, violated. She hadn't just prepared for the fall. She'd been living in the ashes. That's when her phone buzzed on the counter. Unlocked. Still trusting. A message flashed. Thursday still good? Don't want to push it if he's sniffing around. From a contact named Jamie. Work. I laughed. Just a breath through my nose, but it felt like the first honest sound I'd made in days. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was planning the next act. I picked up the phone, opened the message thread. Dozens of texts. Some harmless. Some not. Last night was unexpected. You taste better than the wine. That line stuck with me. A real gut punch sentence. No ambiguity. No misread. Just proof. Raw, deliberate proof. I set the phone down. Didn't delete anything. Didn't confront her. I just stood in the house we built together and felt the foundation crumble in silence. I didn't go back to Mark's place that night. I drove for hours instead. Past city lights, past gas stations glowing like empty promises, out into the kind of silence only highways at 2 a.m. can offer. I needed to outrun the feeling. The one where your skin doesn't fit right, where your lungs take in air but it doesn't feel like breathing. Eventually, I pulled into an old roadside motel. The kind with flickering neon and front desk clerks who don't ask questions. I paid in cash. Room 12. Smelled like damp carpet and old regrets. Perfect. I lay on the bed fully clothed, holding Rachel's betrayal like a physical object. A stone. Cold, heavy, and too real to ignore. Every word from that message thread replayed in my mind like a sick loop. Last night was unexpected. Unexpected like a surprise party. Like a mistake that felt good enough to repeat. By the next morning, the clarity was sharp. There's something about absolute devastation that makes decisions easier. You stop negotiating. Stop bargaining with pain. It becomes binary, act or stay broken. So I acted. I made 3 calls. One to a lawyer, my cousin's wife, aggressive, smart, discreet. One to a locksmith. And one to Bryce. That afternoon I met with the lawyer. I laid it all out. She didn't ask why I was calm. Just took notes. Do you want to file with cause? She asked. I nodded. Do you have proof? I showed her the photos I'd taken of Rachel's phone, the Wi-Fi records, the t-shirt. She looked at it all and said, you've got a clean shot. She's not going to walk out of this wearing the halo she thinks she is. That night, I waited in the car outside the house. Lights on. Jamie's car, a black Audi, parked in my driveway like it belonged there. Like he belonged. My fingers curled around the steering wheel. Not from rage. From restraint. I could have gone in. I could have knocked. Could have kicked the door open, dragged him out by his collar and demanded the last shred of my dignity back. But that's what she was waiting for. A spectacle. Something to twist. Something she could point to and say, see? That's the real Josh. Instead, I waited. Watched. And when he finally came out smiling, buttoning his shirt, casual as Sunday brunch, I took the photo. Just one. He didn't even glance around. He had no reason to. He thought I was gone. That I'd slinked off into the shadows with my tail between my legs. He got into his car and drove off like this was just another stop. Another woman. Another lie. I waited 30 minutes. Long enough to make sure he was gone. Long enough to rehearse the lines I'd been crafting in my head since the motel. Then I walked in. She was in the kitchen, humming, sipping tea. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just opened the home we built to someone else's hands. She looked up. I thought you said you weren't coming back tonight. I placed the envelope on the counter. Thick. Heavy. Unmistakably legal. She froze. What's this? You know exactly what it is. Her mouth opened, closed. She touched the envelope like it was something alive, dangerous. I haven't even. I didn't think we were Done. I cut her off. We are. She straightened her spine, tried to mask her panic with a sneer. So this is how you handle things? With lawyers? No, I said, walking past her. This is how I end things when they're already dead. She followed me, voice rising. You think this is going to make you the victim? You're not some saint, Josh. I turned, looked her dead in the eyes. You're right. I'm not a saint. But I didn't invite a stranger into our bed while pretending to be bored. I didn't gaslight my way out of guilt. And I didn't fall in love with someone else while still signing birthday cards with forever. She didn't speak. Her lips pressed into a tight line. Rage, maybe? Or fear? Or both? I'll be back in a week for the rest of my things, I said, heading for the door. You'll find the locks changed by then. And then I left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. The silence after the storm is the part no one warns you about. The quiet isn't peaceful, it's heavy. It follows you. Lingers in rooms you haven't even entered yet. That first week out of the house, I stayed at a short-term rental, small, sparsely furnished, but with a bed that wasn't stained with someone else's secrets. That alone was worth every cent. Rachel didn't contact me right away. I thought she might. A call. A tantrum. A weak apology stretched thin over thicker lies. But there was nothing. Not even a text. And that told me everything. The panic in her eyes when she saw the divorce papers? That wasn't about losing me. It was about losing control of the story she'd been writing behind my back. The lawyer moved fast. She'd filed within 24 hours. We had everything ready, the evidence, the timeline, the digital trail of deceit. It wasn't just about ending the marriage, it was about carving truth into the official record. Rachel might have lied to me, but she wasn't going to lie to the court. 3 days later, she broke the silence. She emailed me. Subject, seriously? That was it. I opened it, already tired before reading a word. So this is what we're doing now? You're going to pretend you're some wounded hero while dragging me through legal mud? You couldn't just talk to me like a man? You had to run off, play spy, and then serve me papers like I'm a criminal? You don't even know what you're throwing away. But you will. One day you will. I didn't reply. The next morning I got another. Subject, are you happy now? Jamie's gone. He said he wasn't ready for complications. Guess he didn't realize I came with those. I hope you're proud of yourself. I hope you're enjoying your freedom. Because this isn't what I wanted. You forced this. You always force things. This time I laughed. Not a joyful laugh. More like the kind that comes out when you see just how deep the delusion goes. She still thought she was the passenger. Still believed I was steering this ship into disaster. As if none of this was her design. As if cheating was just a passive misstep, not a choice she packed for, dressed up for, planned for. I forwarded the emails to my lawyer. She told me not to respond. Let her words hang her, she said. The following day, Rachel showed up at my rental. Unannounced. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the knock. I looked through the peephole and there she was, in sunglasses and a trench coat like this was some war film she was starring in. I opened the door just wide enough to block the frame. Did you forget how phones work? I asked. I needed to see you, she said. Her voice wasn't steady. I made a mistake. That's true. I panicked, she added. Things got messy. But I didn't mean to hurt you like this. You didn't mean to hurt me? I asked. Is that what Jamie's cologne was about? Accidental aromatherapy? She flinched. I thought maybe if you just stop and listen we could talk. There's nothing left to say, I said. She tried to push the door wider. I didn't let her. This is insane, she said, suddenly louder. We've been together for a decade. You're going to throw that away because of a mistake. Because of a series of choices, I corrected her. Calculated, repeated, unrepented. Tears welled in her eyes, real or rehearsed, I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't think you'd leave, she whispered. Not really. And there it was. The rawest truth she'd ever said to me. She thought I'd break. She thought I'd stay. She thought my silence meant permission. And now that I'd rewritten the ending without her, she didn't know who she was anymore. You should go, I said. She looked at me for a long time like she was trying to memorize this version of me, the man who stopped orbiting her chaos. I'll be back, she said. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I replied. And then I closed the door. Firm. Final. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken, that part had burned out days ago, but because my mind was too alert. It's like when your body finally realizes you're safe and only then allows the full inventory of damage to surface. And I had damage. Not the kind you can point to in a mirror. The kind that lives behind your eyes, in the silence between thoughts. I kept going over everything. The dinner she laughed through. The smirk when I confronted her. The way she said I don't feel guilty like it was a brag. And then Jamie. Jamie with his expensive cologne and smooth exits. He'd evaporated the moment real life showed up. A ghost. A cliché in designer shoes. I wondered if she missed him already. Or if the hole he left was quickly filled with resentment for me for not being the doormat she counted on. The next morning I met with my lawyer again. She handed me a folder. She responded, she said, sliding it across the desk. Rachel had filed a counterclaim. She wasn't denying anything. But she wasn't admitting it either. Her strategy was clear now: muddy the waters, blur the lines, make this seem like a communication failure instead of betrayal. She wants mediation, my lawyer added. She thinks you'll fold if you sit across from her long enough. She's wrong. She's betting on your history together. The shared years. The emotional weight. I shook my head. She traded those years for a fling. She doesn't get to cash in emotional tokens after burning the house down. We set the date for mediation anyway. Not because I believed in it, but because I wanted to look her in the eyes one more time, not as a husband, but as a man who chose dignity over decay. The session was held in a neutral office building. Windowless. Sterile. Like they wanted to remind you that no one cares how many songs were your song. Rachel arrived in a beige coat, her makeup perfect. She looked like someone playing the role of heartbroken but trying. I wore a plain black shirt. No armor. No mask. We sat across from each other with a mediator between us, a woman in her 50s who looked like she'd seen every kind of war two people can wage. Let's begin with intentions, the mediator said. Josh, what do you want out of this process? I looked at Rachel. Straight through her. I want a clean exit. No alimony. I'm not fighting for the house. She can keep it. I just want this finished. Rachel's jaw twitched. She hadn't expected that. She expected me to beg for scraps. To argue over furniture. To make it messy enough to stall. Rachel, the mediator asked. I want fairness, she said. And honesty. This wasn't one-sided. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Quiet, bitter. Not theatrical, just real. Fairness? I repeated. After what you did. After you let another man walk through our life and made excuses about it. She stiffened. You were distant. Cold. You stopped seeing me. I stopped trusting you when you started hiding your phone. She looked down. A flash of shame. Or a performance. At that point, I no longer cared which. The mediator stepped in, trying to steer the room back to civility. Let's keep this focused on resolution. No, I said, leaning forward. Let's keep this focused on reality. She wants fairness? She got it. She didn't get exposed. I haven't told her family. Haven't dragged her online. Haven't gone to her work. That's mercy, not fairness. Rachel's voice cracked, just a little. You want everyone to think I'm the villain. No, I said, standing. I want them to think for themselves. And I want you to sit with the fact that your mistake had a first message, a meeting, a second meeting, and a plan. That's not a stumble. That's choreography. I looked at the mediator. I'll sign anything reasonable. I'll agree to anything that ends this. Just make sure she knows it's not a negotiation. It's the last page. I left before anyone said another word. In the elevator, my reflection stared back, not triumphant, not broken. Just clearer. Like I'd been walking through fog and finally stepped into dry air. The thing they don't tell you about closure is that it rarely comes wrapped in some neat, cinematic bow. There's no music swell, no poetic final words. Most of the time, it comes in pieces, in the stillness of ordinary moments when you realize you're no longer waiting for someone to be sorry. A week after the mediation, the paperwork was finalized. My lawyer called just to say, it's done. She signed. That was it. A decade of shared holidays, morning routines, stupid inside jokes dissolved in a sentence. I didn't feel relief. Not immediately. What I felt was stillness. Like the house finally stopped creaking from all the lies. Like the storm passed and I could finally hear myself think. Then came the message. A number I didn't recognize. Late at night. Just a single sentence. Can we talk? I knew it was her. I didn't respond. Not right away. I stared at it for an hour, imagining the scenarios. Was she drunk? Regretful? Bored now that Jamie had ghosted and her new life tasted like ash? Eventually, I replied. About what? The typing bubble appeared. Then disappeared. Then came back. About everything. I miss talking to you. There it was. The attempt to claw back what she had so casually tossed aside. I thought about leaving her on read. I almost did. But some part of me, the part that needed to bury this properly, needed to hear it. One last time. I told her we could talk. Public place. Daylight. No games. We met at a coffee shop not far from the house we used to share. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window with a latte untouched in front of her. She looked smaller. Like her confidence had been worn down to the bones. She stood when she saw me, gave me a smile that was equal parts hope and guilt. I didn't smile back. Thanks for coming, she said, sitting again. I sat across from her. You said you wanted to talk. She looked down at her hands, twisting a ring she wasn't wearing anymore. I've been trying to figure out how to say this, she began, voice shaky. But nothing sounds right. Nothing makes it okay. That's because it's not okay. She nodded quickly as if she needed permission to agree. I know it's not. I've been feeling this weight. I keep replaying it all, trying to find the moment where I lost you. I leaned back, eyes fixed on her. You didn't lose me. You left. Her eyes welled. I thought I wanted something else. I thought maybe if I felt something new, I could feel alive again. I was stupid. I was selfish. You were cruel. That landed. She closed her eyes briefly. I didn't know how far I'd fallen until I watched you walk away without looking back. I waited. Let the silence hang. I don't expect anything, she added. I just needed to say it. That I'm sorry. For all of it. I looked at her for a long moment. And then I told her the truth. You don't miss me. You miss the version of yourself you were when I believed in you. She didn't speak. Her lip trembled. I'm glad you said sorry. I hope it helps you sleep. But it's done. You don't get to miss me like that anymore. She wiped her face, trying not to cry in public. Was any of it real? She asked quietly. Of course it was, I said. Which is why it hurt the way it did. And with that I stood up. Walked out. No second goodbye. No hug. No need. I didn't look back. And for the first time since all of this started, I didn't feel like I'd left something unfinished. There's a strange kind of peace that comes when you realize you've survived something meant to break you. Not the loud, triumphant kind. Not fireworks or applause. It's quiet. Like waking up one morning and realizing the weight on your chest is gone, not because someone lifted it, but because you finally stood up. It's been a few months now. The divorce is official. The papers are filed, the signatures inked, and the silence between Rachel and me has finally turned from sharp to still. She hasn't contacted me again since that last meeting. And I haven't reached out either. There's nothing left to say. No new truths to uncover. No closure to barter. I moved to a smaller place across town. No echoes of our shared life, no ghosts in the walls. Just mine. I filled it with furniture that doesn't match and plants I'm still learning how not to kill. But it's honest. Every inch of it. There's no mask here. No second set of keys hiding a second life. Sometimes, on certain nights, I catch myself thinking about the early years. The road trips. The laughter. The late-night kitchen dancing. And I let myself feel those memories not because I want them back, but because I earned them. They were real even if she stopped being the person who made them matter. But what I never do anymore is wonder what I did wrong. That's the part I've reclaimed. The part they don't show you in the movies. I stopped making room for the guilt that didn't belong to me. I stopped editing the past to make her behavior make sense. She lied. She planned. She stepped out. And I walked away. Not in defeat. Not in weakness. But in clarity. I've learned that the moment someone stops choosing you, truly choosing you, every day becomes a performance. And I was never meant to be part of a show. I was meant for something real. Something whole. So now I'm rebuilding. Slowly. Deliberately. I spend my weekends hiking or reading or sitting on my balcony with coffee and the kind of silence that doesn't hurt anymore. I don't check her social media. I don't ask mutual friends about her. Whatever story she's telling now, it's not mine to hear. And if anyone reading this is where I was confused, aching, desperate to fix something that keeps unraveling no matter how hard you hold on, let me tell you something I wish I'd known sooner. Sometimes walking away isn't losing. It's choosing yourself. Choosing peace. Choosing a life where the floor doesn't shake beneath your feet every time they say, I love you. Because love without respect isn't love. It's manipulation dressed in comfort. And you deserve more than that. I did. And now I finally have it.